Okay, good. What we're doing today is just going through and marking up the higher time frames in preparation for next week. So we're trading gold, crude oil, NASDAQ, and the 6E, the euro currency futures. So the only trade that I'm in right now is gold, and I'm kind of wishing I would have exited here at this upper median line. So we went into a pretty obvious triangle. I know these are difficult for people to see in real time, but this one was a little spectacular. Pretty nice one. And it was riding the bottom of this channel here. So I'm connecting to this swing point here, to the high, and then all the way to the low. And we found support here with a huge spike in volume, a selling climax into that low. And then we picked up volume up and out of that. I believe that was the FOMC meeting. Yeah. So this is a pretty obvious triangle here. And as far as just the relationships really quickly, C is 78.6 of A. And then E, I think, is 38.2. Oftentimes the E wave won't have any relationship at all, but in this case, it's 38.2 of C. So nice little triangle. And then, the target for this, I'm hoping, will be up in here, but I think that's kind of wishful thinking on my part. It has hit the upper median line and found some resistance, so it's lost momentum into this high here. And I'm thinking I probably should have taken it off, but I'm going to hold this one over the weekend and see if it won't make another swing higher, because what we have up above it here is, I think, an even better area. Well, to presume that this median line is going to find resistance, that we'll find resistance on this median line when we didn't really find any support on this one, I think is potentially unwarranted. But at any rate, we have this median line coming in line with that one a little bit higher, and that would be probably Monday midday up in here. And that's looking like 73. So what did I have for the top of this? Yeah, that's not even that much higher. That's only right about in here. See, it's made it to 138% of wave one. If this is wave one, and that's 2, and that's 3, and this is triangle 4, then it's made it a pretty good little distance for the fifth wave if this is wave 1. But when we go over to the weekly and the daily charts, if the the larger move that's happening is to the upside, which it appears it is for the moment anyway, it's still pretty strong to the upside, then this thing could go on up and break the high. So I'm going to hold it over the weekend, probably Monday and Tuesday. We'll see what happens. But typically the triangle is the wave before the final move. But if it is a 5-wave push to the upside, then I think that's a pretty good sign that we will continue higher. I'm just thinking, I guess I have A little bit of time to make up my mind on that. Well, at any rate, I was short the NASDAQ last Friday, trying to short a lower high. I still made some money on it, but I ended up giving back a good little chunk of what I had made on the second contract. I got out of the first contract. Okay, we'll go over that in a minute. So I did hold that one over the weekend. But by the time we came to trading on Monday, it hadn't really moved very much. Whereas I was thinking that it was going to gap down Monday, which was, pretty much an immediate sign that it wasn't very weak. So we'll go over that in a minute. But I'm saying that because I'm thinking about holding gold over the weekend, because it is in such a strong move up. I'm just concerned about this triangle here, because typically a triangle is the penultimate wave. It's the wave before the final wave. I'm gonna take my profit now. I should have taken it a little bit higher, but I'm just gonna go ahead and get out of this thing.
Order pending.
What time is it? Oh, it's 4:30. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. It is closed. Yeah.
Order canceled.
You sure about that? Hang on a second. No, I think gold is open for a little bit longer.
Order filled.
Yeah.
Order canceled.
Gold is open for another 15 minutes. Okay, good. All right. Well, anyway, I went ahead and banked that one. So at least I ended the week in the black. I don't want to wait. I don't want to come to my computer Monday morning and see this thing having gap down. So whatever. I may as well just take what I've got. It broke to new highs. That's the minimum thing I was looking for. Just a really pretty little setup right here into that low. I'm not going to get into it here on the hourly chart, but it all came together right here at this low, back in line with the previous area of support. And this is one that I had missed before because it didn't break to a new low here. So at that point, when it failed to break to a new low here and found support on this up trend line here, this up channel line, I immediately started thinking triangle. Excuse me. Then I tried to take a short here and was just a little bit early. It ended up making the final high here, I think at midnight or 1 a.m. and then came down. By the time we closed the room, we had not yet made this low, and we were, looking for that between 51 and 54. And I think it came down to 53. 52.6. So anyhow, when that volume came in, for no apparent reason, maybe something happened in the yen, maybe there was something in Japan, I don't know, but a ton of volume came in on that bar, and it just shocked it back and forth real quick. And I didn't see the low until that happened, and then I ended up getting up in here like 55 something. So I didn't get the best trade location on that, and I did have, I think it was like a 25 tick stop or something on this. So it wasn't, what I love to get, a 10-to-1 reward to risk, but it was still every bit of a 5-to-1. So whatever, it's a nice way to end the week. At any rate, we did, like I said last week, we did find major resistance here at this high, and then we came down basically in a straight line. I did manage to get that low and a chunk of this, but I got out early because I was thinking, well, it's incredibly strong to the downside. And, we have found a beautiful spot of resistance. So that's probably going to continue. When that didn't happen, and then we get this massive up bar, then obviously I'm second guessing the downside scenario and looking for longs, and then luckily got the end of that triangle. In the NASDAQ, however, I've been just pretty upset with myself, really. We're getting parabolic now, and the next major resistance is not for a while. It's actually pretty good ways up. I mean, I'm sure we'll put in some kind of correction, something like this, up in here at some point, but we could begin to go vertical, even more so than we have done, for another 1,500 ticks or so. Not sure how many percent that is. What is that? It's only about another 7%. So we could easily do that in a couple of weeks. This is a weekly bar. We could easily move 1,500 ticks in 2-3 weeks, which is where these two lines are intersecting. You see what I'm doing? All I'm doing is I'm connecting to the lowest low here to the major swing low here. This is where all the demand came in, 2009. This is where all the demand came in, 2016. And this is where all the supply came in, 2007. So if we make it up to the top of that channel in a couple of few weeks, then we will be in a position to put in a much larger correction, maybe even something on the magnitude of this. Potentially. See, I'm thinking the way that I had all this marked up last week as well. This is one of the final waves up here. It might even be the final wave, but I think it's going to extend and take a little while to put in and be pretty upsetting to a lot of people looking for a high. That's just not going to come. I think this will probably end up being the third wave high up here. So we may do a little bit deeper correction for the fourth wave, which is what I thought we were beginning to get on Friday. And then, you know, that just psyched everybody out, me included. And I think this is our 1, 2. I think we're doing a 3, probably in here pretty soon. Another week or so, maybe next week we'll put in a decent high that we could then get a maybe a correction like we had, maybe a little bit bigger than we had last week. That might last a couple of weeks and then go up in here to this final high around 6,200. So I think that'll be looking pretty nice for a third wave high, and then we'll get this bigger correction. Okay. So I like that spot much better up here. Now that we're getting vertical, we're getting that kind of parabolic look. This will likely continue as sentiment is obviously out of control right now. This was the low here last week. And then what I was selling, what I had sold, and you know, it did give me a pretty good little move out of it. But it ended up failing. So let's see. This is what I had sold up in here. It was several areas coming together. I was showing you all that Friday. And then, you know, Monday, it hits that spot again, turns down, but fails to continue lower. And then when it started going sideways in here, I went ahead and took one off and then attempted another short, just added back. And then that one got stopped out, you know, immediately within 30 seconds or a minute or so. And by then it's pretty obvious that we're continuing to new highs. And the target for this was the top of the channel. And we did that yesterday. Excuse me, you see how we hit that perfectly? So for one thing, I mean, look at this. This is market geometry for you. If you're unsure that market geometry is useful or that people use it, people with big money use it, this is the major high. This is supply and demand. This is how supply and demand truly works. as opposed to what some people may teach you. This is a major high where supply came in, right? This is a major low where demand came in. This is another major high where supply came in. This is the low where all of that demand came in. You see that? So this is giving us the slope here, because if I delete that and I just draw a trend line from high to high, you see how it's giving us that next high? We just miss it here and then get the big influx of volume on that down bar right there. See how huge that volume is? And that's at night, so you're not going to see that. This is relative volume, so you're not going to see the true volume spike. It would just be a tiny little bar down here, but because it's relative volume, it's showing you that you've got some unusual action going on right here. So anyhow, this is the slope. We're showing you that it's kind of in a weak position because we didn't make it all the way to the top of that trend line again before getting the flood of supply. So it's in an obvious weak position at that point, and then gives you the perfect little correction right there, 5:30 in the morning or 4:30. Something like that. I can't remember exactly what time it was. It was early in the morning, and then it shoots straight down. And where does it come down to? But where the median line intersects the channel line right there. So while I was justified in trying to short this as a potential B wave high, as if this was A, B, and then we were looking for a C wave, the fact remained that this was a pretty obvious area of support, and we had been in an incredibly strong uptrend. And I think I was just too willing to try to think that the market was going to do a bigger sell-off just because of the sheer amount of volume that came in here. But I think that was just kind of a way to scare people into unloading some of their positions so they could absorb it all down here at the low. You know, kick it off real hard to the downside, get everybody freaking out, then everybody starts selling. And then all the bankers with the big money that can build a larger position just kind of hold their hands open, hold their bags open down here and absorb all that selling, and then start marking it up. And after they mark it up through the obvious area for the short, then everybody jumps on board and starts buying this thing up. And see, now we're at new highs. Now we're getting that kind of vertical look, parabolic look. Momentum is actually increasing here. See how it almost looks kind of rounded right in here? See? Kind of rounding out, and then boom, you get even faster momentum to the upside. Did kind of knock it sideways once we hit the top of that channel, but now we're going up again. And these little channels here were pretty nice this week, and these were the ones that I unfortunately missed. I marked them up. I had them all laid out in the room, but I just didn't manage to take advantage of it. Let me see something real quick. Yeah, I guess it's on the tick chart, so I'm not going to worry about trying to mark all of this up, but this was the really nice swing low that we had the other day. What was that? That was the 23rd right here. Just barely broke the low here, but you see how it lines up, how perfectly that is? Just like I showed you, this is the fractal nature of the markets, right? This is a 240-minute chart that we're looking at right here. You see this? Major high, major low gives us the next major low right there. And this is on a much, much smaller scale. Major high to major high, back to the major low, gives us the next major low right there. You see? It's pretty incredible, really. And that was the 23rd, so that was this low right there, right here. It's pretty incredible. It's also the trend line from low to low on the tick chart. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have that one here. So at any rate, I think we're going much, much higher. We did put in a nice little low today here. And I think we're just about to be breaking out to new highs. I think we just did, just barely. Or we double topped. Made one tick from the high. Yeah, so I think we're going much higher. I mean, this could be, I'm not going to count on it, and I'm not going to expect it, but it might be that this is the A wave down, and this is B back up. I mean, this looks like a perfect little A, B, C back up. So what I'm doing right now is Elliott wave, if you're not familiar with it, just trying to forecast what the corrections are going to look like. So it could do 5 waves down into 60, maybe a little bit deeper. And if it does that, then I'll definitely be looking for that low here. And that would be probably pretty quickly Monday. If that is the case, I imagine we'll start moving down Sunday night, maybe gap down at the open Monday and get a really quick little pop of selling that I think will be met with buying pretty quickly. And that, yeah, that could come all the way down to here. Yeah, to here. See, this is the spot that I was talking about this morning right here. See how we came right down to that channel and then turned up? So as of right now, we've already turned up from major support. Okay. So the upside is favored much more likely than the downside. But if we can pop through this channel, then we'll see some selling come in, hopefully right down to this next spot, which would give us a nice little swing low, corrective low, which would be back in line with this little high right here, this high relative volume swing right here, the previous correction. All right, so that's NASDAQ. Let's go to the 6E. Because the 6E, I think, is making a low right here. So you don't have your warning lines turned on. So what we have right here is a perfect hit of the 100% warning line. And the median line right here. Right there. And then what else was it? It was something else from back, further back. Maybe it was the actual median line from here. Can't remember what it was exactly. I had something else here. I just lost everything because I'm constantly in development mode here and I'm trying to test stuff and update. And anyway, I lost a lot of my drawings here a few minutes ago. Can't remember exactly what else it was that I had right here, but at any rate, it might have been this channel. There was something else right here. So anyway, we have the potential of making that corrective low where it's already made it. You see, we've got 2 big churn bars here, meaning very high volume per range coming in at the low right here, right now. And that knocked it sideways. It tried to break lower here. It couldn't do it. And now it's turning up out of that. So I'm thinking that that's probably our swing low right there. It's not very pretty the way it's looking here, but it has hit a confluence of areas here. So that's probably our swing low. And we should likely continue very, very higher, very higher, very much higher. I had been kind of second guessing what was happening here in the euro, which I was talking about last week, saying that, I had been expecting to come on down from in here for this fifth and final wave. But after seeing what has unfolded here, we gapped up, back above this previous swing high. And now we're getting parabolic. Kind of, on the daily chart, it looks a little bit more so, but it's picking up speed anyhow. We had last week was just a massive up week. We've lost a little steam in here the past day and a half or two, past few days. But I think that has just ended. And next week will likely be another big up week. So as far as I can tell, and what I'm thinking is that we've put that low in. And this is really the only thing in our way at the moment. There's this down sloping upper median line. And I would say this one is justified to be used because we did use it as support right here. So this is about the only thing that's scaring me as far as expecting new highs. Well, that and the fact that you're right in the middle of a massive triangle that went sideways for almost 2 years. Now, of course, all of that volume has already come and gone. Everybody's already traded that and, untraded it and whatever. This is a futures contract. So the Forex market, evidently governs the futures, but I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how long banks really would hold a Forex position, maybe multi-year, probably. So we might be coming up on some pretty serious resistance in here just because of the fact that we're basically right in the midpoint of this triangle here. Yeah, we're kind of up through the midpoint. So this might be a pretty good spot for some resistance here. Okay. I'm thinking we'll likely make it through it, but something on this magnitude, on the order of this magnitude, could knock it sideways for a few weeks before we actually get through it. Especially being that we used the center median line as support, and now we're into the upper. So pretty good spot for some selling to take place. And that's kind of what's happened the past several days here, past 4 days. So I know this is kind of ugly for a third wave, but what are you going to do with it? It's an FOMC meeting, so those tend to kind of mess up the market structure a little bit. As far as the next potential target to the upside, I think we've got plenty of room to the upside. Like I just got through saying, yes, we are back into some pretty serious overlapping waves in here. But this thing has recently picked up some pretty serious steam. So if we are going to find some more resistance here off of this median line, maybe that lasts for another week or so. So maybe next week will be a little bit range bound. But what I'm going to do is if on Monday, let's say Sunday night, if it'll come back and test this low again that we were just looking at on the 60-minute right in here, that looks like a nice little ABC low. If it'll come back and maybe tick that out a little bit, I'll attempt a long here to see if Monday won't kick off a new push to the upside. So a final push to the upside. I don't know if it's going to be final, but I imagine if it can get some steam, it'll come back and take these highs out pretty quickly, which are over 150 ticks away. So 178 ticks away. I'm thinking that's a pretty good. Yeah. And the other potential would be to make it back to the bottom of this channel here, which let's do that on the 240-minute chart. So the lowest area is this trend line here. You see? And that's quite a ways away. That's over 400 or 500 ticks away. So beyond that, I'll just draw that same trend line here. Bring it up a little tighter, yeah. So beyond that, or let's say above that rather. That's about 162 ticks down. I want to see where this one comes in. Yeah, see that median line's kind of coming in line at that high as well. So if we can go back up, take out the high, maybe make it all the way back to this median line again, that could be the end of our third wave, potentially. So yeah, the first thing we have in here is 111, 125, this trend line, channel line. And then below that would be the kiss goodbye of this channel. So maybe break out above it, pull back to it. Or like I was saying before, so remember that 1.1 1125, 1.11125. And then over here on the 60-minute chart is what I'm favoring, that the low is already in. Just the fact that we had pretty big supply, demand, sorry, at a low, demand at a high, supply. Pretty big demand coming in at this low right here, which is the 100% warning line of this channel that we broke out of, pulled back to, and then down from, and then the median line of this correction. So this is all one big correction as far as what I can tell, as far as I'm concerned. This looks like one big correction to the downside, and we're in a massive uptrend in the euro, obviously. So I want to be a buyer in here. I should have bought it this morning, but I was just watching that gold trade, trying not to lose money. So yeah, I think next move is going to be to the upside. But like I said, I will be prepared if we do break lower with this next area down here at the bottom of this channel. So I'll be watching that if we do push lower. All right, crude oil. Crude has had a nasty little push to the downside. Out of what did I have before? So I was looking at this on the hourly chart this morning. Maybe it was one of the tick charts, but I'm looking at this low here. And this is a pretty, evidently this is where some hedge fund unloaded all of their big position in crude. I bet they were pretty upset with themselves after that. But anyway, that's supposedly what caused this capitulation here. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's true because it's, you know, they have to disclose their positions, I think, on a weekly basis. I'm not sure how that works anymore, but somebody unloaded a massive position in here. So I was looking at this and saying, well, typically if we have a pretty big wick and it's a massive selling climax or buying climax, we'll use the highest or lowest closing price instead of that big wick. So if I do that, then it comes in line a little better up there at the high. Not so much. Can't remember what chart it was. It was a different chart I was working with. I think it was a tick chart. Anyhow, I was trying to find a reason for this to be a major swing high and now go down to new lows, but I think that's pretty much pretty unlikely at this point. I'm thinking this is a big push to the upside. We may get one more swing down for a wave 2, and it could come all the way back to 78.6 of this push up that crude loves so much. Could come all the way back down to here, 45.50. But I'm thinking we'll probably come back to this trend line here. And I think that'll be the one that we use as resistance up here, and then do a straight shot down to this and look like we're going to be going straight down to new lows, stop on a dime, and then turn back up. We are back to the median line here. So that's a good spot for the B wave to end. Except I don't know if this is the end of the A wave or if this is. If this is, then this is only one push to the upside, and that's unlikely to be the end of a B wave. It'll, if it does put in a high here, we'll probably come down, maybe back into here, and then do a C wave back up to finish this little B wave here. If you don't understand Elliott wave, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is B is a 3-wave move or a triangle. So this would be what I would be looking for if this is the end of the A wave. But if it's like this, then this thing could be over right here. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to figure out, is it over now here at this high? Or are we going to do another wave down and another wave back up? If that happens, then I'll definitely be looking for a short right here. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm trying to figure out with crude. And that would be back in line with this 61.8 area. I doubt it's going to be exactly 61.8, but somewhere up in here. And beyond that, if it breaks above that, then I have no idea. If it breaks above that, then this is probably the end of the correction, and we're just going to go to new highs. Okay, the alternative would be that this is a big wave 1 down and 2 back up, and then another 1, 2. And we've just started a massive move to the downside. The reason I don't like that is because of the way this weekly chart is looking. So we've had this one on here for a while, well, since the low was made. High to high from the low gives us that low perfectly. It's also the midline of this big, massive channel to the downside. And it's also the lower median line right there. You see that? So it's a pretty awesome spot to put in a low. And the fact that it's a V bottom on what appears to be a big ABC down is making me think we're going to finish this thing out the way that would make the most sense and that would be to come all the way back into the previous fourth wave, which is up here and just happens to be where we have so many major areas all coming together up in this general vicinity, up around 60. So if we do that, everybody's going to think that we're in a new big bull market in crude oil, and the economy is doing great. Transportation is up. You know, everybody's making money, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully that'll be about the time we put in that top in the NASDAQ. I think I said those exact words last week. Something similar. And that's a pretty good looking spot up here to be putting in this fourth wave high. Okay, and then one final push down, and that'll be some kind of recession or something we go into maybe at the end of this year. I don't think it'll take that long, but maybe by the time we're well into the recession, maybe sometime end of October, I don't know. But it looks to me like we need one more wave to the downside. And when we get that, that'll be the massive low that I've been looking for a couple of years. And that'll be where I put on a pretty big position in USO or something to hold for a little while. All right, I guess that's about all we've got here. Any questions on any of this? So I'm looking for, I mean, this is a weekly chart we're talking about here in crude, but I'm looking for a big push to the upside over the next several months. But directly, we are at a spot for some resistance here. Let me see if I can't load my new volume. Yeah, nothing serious in the way of volume right here. It is kind of drifting off a little bit. Yeah, I'm thinking if we put in a high here, it's probably just an intermediate high. Then we get the B wave down, C wave back up. And this is the spot to look for the short in crude. And then one more wave down. And that will be the low that I look for the really big long in crude. I mean, it's going to have to look right. It's going to have to set up right. Obviously, you don't trade the forecast. You just kind of try to figure out what might happen. And then once you see something that sets up nicely, then you pull the trigger. So it's not a matter of trying to, you know, look into a crystal ball or something. But if it does come down, we get a B wave down and we come back up into this spot, and the volume comes in and confirms, then this will be the spot to look for that short in crude. Okay, and it does look like a nice 5-wave move to the downside here. So you would expect that you would get another 5-wave move to the downside after that, as you typically do. Although I will say NASDAQ had me fooled. I mean, that was a pretty incredible sell-off, wasn't it? I mean, at least we got into a low-risk short here, and we did get the push to the downside. So it did, you know, that to me, that looks like, oh yeah, I'm doing pretty good. That's going to continue to the downside and I'll be fine. But the strength of that move up was kind of a tell, wasn't it? At any rate, right here, you see that little 2-bar pattern, that selling climax followed by the churn bar. It's an obvious sign of demand coming in, and then we failed to get much lower below that. We just kind of dipped below that for a second and then popped right back up. So that was the point at which, see, it was like a double bottom almost. I think it was one tick through the low. And that was the point at which I said, you know, I'll go ahead and take one off, because I had missed that low as it was 5 in the morning. I probably wouldn't have taken it off there anyhow, because I was hoping it was going to break down. But by the time I came to the computer right in here, it came down and then it started popping back up. And once it turned back up, I went ahead and took one off. And then I think I tried to short one more in here for some stupid reason, then immediately got stopped out. So at least I didn't lose any money on it. I actually made money on it, but it didn't follow through. So that's what I mean about, trading what you see, not what you're trying to forecast. But obviously we try to anticipate what's going to happen so that we can be prepared for the next major obvious swing low or high, which we had a couple nice ones this week in the NASDAQ. Had them marked up and ready to go and everything, but just failed to pull the trigger. Too much other stuff going on. So anyway, potential low here in 6E. NASDAQ looks like it's continuing higher. I think this is probably the thing that interests me the most. And then gold, of course, I just closed that long trade here. Thinking that this could be the end of the 5-wave move up. But, I won't be too surprised to see if it gaps up and pushes on higher and kind of gets into an extended move that nobody expects. As far as the structure is concerned, the way it's looking right now, that looks to me like it could definitely be the end of a 5-wave move to the upside. If we can simply get a pullback to the midpoint of this triangle, it'll probably come lower than that. But if we do come back to the midpoint of this triangle, I'll probably be looking for another move to the long side. Which may even coincide with the same channel that we've been riding up here. So we'll see if that doesn't happen. But I suspect we could be gapping up to the upside. As far as the way it's looking now, though, the 15-minute, the 5-minute, we've got some significant divergence in here, and a nice little churn bar at the high there. Yeah, we did have a problem with the website this morning. I had to move the domain over to a new registrar. So the site should be up and everything should be fine. There's probably about 6 or 8 hours of time that we may not have received any emails. So if you sent me an email or you sent support an email, then and you haven't heard a response, then we likely didn't get it. I think from about 5:30 or 6:30 onward this morning to about 12 or 1. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a weekend. Well, call it a day. And I'll talk to you guys in the room Monday morning. Good luck to everybody. Hope you had a great week and hope you have a nice weekend.